People always used to say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, now it's who knows you. Because so many people had been at university and so many people had degrees, it no longer was as distinguished as it used to be. But if everybody's super, nobody is.
Do you think someone like Mike Thurston is a better PT, or do you think he's just a better marketer?
If this was a sport, they'd be in the top 0.1% of this sport. It's a business. He is not a personal trainer. He's a business person, and fitness is his product.
What do people not know about the fitness industry that's bad?
When people start getting a little bit more successful, they've been in the fitness industry, they start making more money, clients turn on them. One of the worst things a PT can do is get a flash car. The rules that I try and follow: fail fast, fail hard, fail forwards. So whenever you fail, you're starting from a new place.
How successful can a personal trainer be in 2024? So today we are joined by fitness entrepreneur Alex Parr. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time to come down and do this, mate. It's really appreciated. Now, I know that education is what you're based in at the moment, and I know that obviously you've did a lot of things in the fitness industry. I know that you help a lot of online coaches, a lot of PTs, a lot of people flourish and flap their wings, if you like. But I want to take it a little bit further back, because a lot of people will look at that and think that sounds great, but how the hell do you get into where you are now?
Yeah, for me, I started off my career in the fitness industry. So, I had a choice between going to university or becoming a personal trainer. I'd been a personal trainer for a couple of months, and I basically sat down and I looked at what my 5-year goals were. What does the next 5 years look like for me? Where would I like to be in 5 years? And do I need to go into more education to be able to achieve that? I kind of came to the decision that I didn't need to stay on in education to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So I just decided to stick with personal training. I figured it was an easy way of making, good income with flexibility. I knew I didn't want to be in a 9-to-5 job. I knew I enjoyed the idea of being in a gym and doing something that was kind of fun for my job. So I started as a personal trainer, and I just thought, right, what does the next 5 years as a personal trainer look like, and how do I use that to become a business person? Because I realized that I wanted to own my own business. I wanted the freedom that it allowed. I wanted, at the time I thought I wanted the status of, doing something for yourself, getting out there on your own, being a personal trainer, having your own business. It had just become sexy. The idea of being an entrepreneur, the idea of not going down the typical route and having that sort of freedom that it allowed. So I just thought, okay, I'll be a personal trainer. And I was a personal trainer for about a year and a half until I met the first person that I set up a proper business with, and he changed my mindset on everything. He said, "You're not a personal trainer," which was obviously a shock to me because, when I was working 60 hours a week as a personal trainer, I certainly felt like one. He was like, "You're not a personal trainer, you're a business person, and fitness is your product right now." And that changed my mindset on it, because no longer did I think of myself as putting myself in the box of being a one-to-one personal trainer. I actually saw myself as a business person. I saw myself the wider opportunities that being a professional would allow me, regardless whether I was a fitness professional, finance professional. It didn't really matter. The fact of the matter was that I was a professional, and it gave me the opportunity to create a business and think of myself as a business instead of, thinking that I just turn up to a gym and swap my time for money. So when I had that kind of revelation that he'd come to me with, I started thinking about, right, how does having a network, the network that I've built, allow me to do more than just be a one-to-one personal trainer? Because after I'd been doing it for a couple of years, it no longer felt as kind of cool and sexy to tell people I was a personal trainer. I was still in my early 20s, but I kind of wanted that next level. I wanted to be chasing that kind of next goal, and I just realized that I was fortunate enough to be in a position that allowed me the flexibility to be able to do other things as well. So because I was a personal trainer who set my own times, did my own hours, made my own money, I was able to kind of pursue different things. So I pursued a few different things. I got into I started doing a little bit of modeling. I started getting into that. Obviously, I was able to just pop down to London for 2 days to do shoots, which obviously if I had a normal job, it wouldn't allow me to do that. So it really, that started me thinking about, right, what sort of business can I get into here from being in the fitness industry? Because I was kind of quite early out of my age group of people that get into self-employment and do their own thing. After I'd been in the industry for kind of 2 or 3 years, a lot of my friends started finishing university. They'd They'd went down the route of going and getting a degree and then getting a job at the end of it. But they realised that they didn't want to do the job that their degree allowed them to do, or because so many people had been at university and so many people had degrees, it no longer was as distinguished as it used to be. It wasn't so much of a differentiator. You know, when my parents were telling my brother and sister to go to university, if you went to university and got a good degree, you pretty much got a job at the end of it. If that mentality and if that ideology spreads too far throughout the population, it no longer becomes something that you can distinguish someone by, because everybody has one. Not to quote The Incredibles, but if everybody's super, nobody is. So
the thing is, Alex, you know, you said about, you know, that guy saying to you, you know, you're a business person with a product. Mm-hmm. I think the instant thing I thought of there was, where did you get that mindset from before that? Because it's clear to me that you were naturally a hustler anyway. I know you mentioned entrepreneurship a few times there, and things were, you know, either sexy or not. You must have had that in you anyway, even when you wanted to become a personal trainer. You pointed out the fact that, you know, you wanted to work for yourself, have your own time. Where did that come from? Did your mum and dad go down that? Do they have their own businesses?
No, they were very much not against the idea of me doing it, but it wasn't anything that they were used to. They didn't understand that world at all. My dad did one job from leaving school at 14, 15 to retiring at 60. He worked in the same place. Obviously, he did different jobs within there, but he never left that job. My mum went and worked at the bank when she was 17, 18, after she'd done her A-levels, and stayed there until she retired. So between them, they had two jobs for their entire career, essentially. You know, they wanted me to go to university because it was an opportunity that they didn't have themselves, which is why they pushed my brother and sister into going to university. But they were very much of the understanding that if you wanted a good life, you would go get a good education and go and get a job and work your way through that. The idea of going out on their own and doing their own thing was so alien to them. I don't even remember anybody growing up who had their own business. In fact, the first person I worked for who had a gym that I worked in, and I ended up kind of working my way up quite quickly to managing that and eventually taking it over from him. He was the first business owner that I'd ever really spent any time with. He was the first person I'd met that had the understanding that you could get like-minded people into a room together, you could agree on principles, you could agree on an action plan moving forward, you could put a business together and you could go for it. I didn't know about that, and pretty much nobody that I'd ever met knew that sort of thing. Every single influence that I'd ever had in my entire life was somebody who was employed with a career who'd kind of stuck at that. So where that sort of mindset came from, it's difficult to say. I feel like, you know, you either grow up seeing somebody do something, and as a result, you do that thing that they've done because that was the influence that you had, or you grow up seeing it, realize that you don't want that for yourself, and you do the complete opposite. So it's that idea that I'd seen them go through that and do that, and I realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do by proxy because I'd watched them do it. Not to say that they did anything wrong. I think that they had, you know, hobbies outside of work that they poured their passion into. So athletics was a big thing for me growing up. My dad was a coach. My mum was involved. My granddad, my parents met at athletics because my mum's dad was an athletics coach as well. My brother got into it. My sister got into it. I did it when I was younger. So they had passions within fitness outside of their work, which they, you know, poured their heart and soul into. I just wanted to pour that passion into something that was my work, as opposed to doing something that paid the bills and then doing something outside of work as well. But I think that it was my parents being so sensible and being so rigid with the life that they lived, which obviously then allowed me to do that. So, you know, when people talk about self-made people, I don't ever really think of myself as being self-made. Even though my parents didn't push me down this route, their choices in the life that they lived allowed me to do it. They allowed me the opportunity to be able to take the risks. So it was like, you know, they probably didn't think that they were doing that, but they massively set me up for success by ensuring that I had a very, very stable home life and ensuring that, you know, I didn't have the biggest safety net ever. As, you know, some people get into business and they've got a safety net of parents who can invest money into them. That wasn't necessarily the case with me. It was more, I had those relationships at home with people that were very, very reliable and dependent. You know, when I got the first gym, my parents were there all the time helping me, helping decorate. My dad was doing odd bits of work. So they supported me in the way that they could, which was, you know, massive to me.
How was, you know, working obviously in that gym to a point where you took it over? Was there anything that opened your eyes when you realised that, you know, you've now got a business, you're a business owner yourself? Was the contrast, how was that from actually what you'd imagined to actually having your own gym?
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram.
I think obviously when I look back at that period, and I'll talk about it with people, I refer to that period as playing gyms. Like, it was almost like I wasn't really running a business. To what I think about now, to the way that I understand my business to be now, and how, you know, well thought out it is, how cash flowed it is into the future, how we're pitching for things. You know, we've got staff on payroll, VAT to pay, all those other things. The gym was like a stepping stone towards that. It was almost like my university, because it's a very simple business. It's almost like just a step above being self-employed. So when I think back to running the gym back then, for me, because it was just a personal training gym, you know, it didn't have to be manned all the time, those sort of things. It was a very simple business. But I made a lot of mistakes. But I made mistakes when the stakes were low. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the repercussions weren't going to be huge. You know, we had rent to pay. We had a few bills to pay, not many. We didn't have any staff to pay. We just had to pay myself and the guy that I did the gym with, and pay a couple of trainers for their time. But it was very straightforward. So if I'd just gotten into the sort of business that I'm in now, where I've got staff and payroll and all of those things, and people's livelihoods on the line, and partners that we work with, and government funding and all those things, and I made the mistakes that I'd made then, they'd have been catastrophic. You know, I'd have been in a bad place financially. But with the gym, it was an opportunity to kind of be a bit of a stepping stone. But now, if I was going to do a gym again, it would be on the new principles that I've built of actually running this business. So that business, in hindsight, was never going to go very far because I wasn't ready. You know.
But it's important that you say that, because I think a lot of people can take value from that, Alex, because, you know, reiterating your point, if you're going to take risks, it's got to be at the early days. I mean, Of course, you know, bigger challenges, bigger risks, bigger businesses, I totally get it. And sometimes you may have to take a risk where you may lose everything to become, you know, that next stage in life or whatever, or in your business, even personal development. But would you say that's fair to say, you know, if you're going to take all risks, do it while you can, when you've got that, I'm not going to say safety net, because I know you didn't have that, but definitely when you've got the support from the start. Because I feel like when I've started businesses in the past, I'm very excitable, so I'll think of an idea. I'm like, oh, I want to do this, and the next thing you know, I'm doing a website. I don't even need a website, but I'm going through that process in my head, and I'm like, at this moment, there's no risk really involved.
Yeah.
Financially.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's when I get my most juice. I'm like, this is when I want to do it. Now, if I was to take the risk with a content PT business, I know that actually adds. You've got certain people who you need to look after. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. I can't just take them same risks. So I suppose it's a timing thing. So I guess what I'm asking you is, how does someone know when they can actually take a risk in business?
Yeah. Well, obviously, you know, like you said there with the content PT, you've got something to lose now. You're established, you've got income from it, you've got something to lose. The rules that I try and follow: fail fast, fail hard, fail forwards. So whenever you fail, you're starting from a new place. You're not starting from scratch again, you're starting from the experiences that you've gained in the last venture or the preliminary stages of the business that you're in now. You know, you can burn that all down and start again. I guess, when can people start taking the risk? It's different for everybody. Everybody has a different threshold for risk. So my threshold for risk is pretty high. Situations that other people would feel massively uncomfortable in, I've never felt uncomfortable in them. And that's not something that I've trained. It's not something that I've worked on. It was just something that I had, you know, even when I've been pretty much at breaking point, or, you know, the whole thing was going to fall down, it didn't really phase me as it would phase other people, to the point where I couldn't even really tell other people. I had to kind of keep those things inside internally. So most business owners who will do something, be successful, they have a high risk threshold tolerance. Things that would make other people lose sleep, they can just kind of move through, and, they can think fast while that's happening. You can't crumble and go to ground and just think, oh shit, I'll bury my head in the sand. You've got to think, is this going to be a problem in 6 months? No. So don't even spend 6 minutes thinking about it now. So let's just, whatever that problem is, speak to them, squash it, or, we've made a mistake there, let's move on and, keep pushing forward. Because I think that when you stop to try and, you've got to kind of put the fires out as you're going. If you stop everything, grind to a halt to try and sort something, you'll be very limited, because then you're just kind of fixing things. You've got to be constantly moving forward. You've got to be constantly thinking of ways to advance. My principles within what I do, because obviously, we've got hundreds of students come on board every month. I believe that the financials follow the quality, and it doesn't come the other way around. So you get the finances in, and then the quality improves as a result. You don't stop and improve the quality, get it to a level, and then the finances follow that. It has to be kind of, the more money you make, the better quality you can do, not start off doing the quality perfect, everything down to a T, and then the financials will catch you up, because it doesn't work like that. All you'll do is have a ceiling, and you'll have to go and try and find money from somewhere else.
And there's no such thing as having that perfect thing anywhere, is there? You're always going to have teething problems. You're always going to have certain things that, objections and things you're going to have to overcome.
Yeah.
For you, Alex, for people who don't know, what is it you actually do? Like, to break it down, how do you actually make money?
Yeah, so our main product, so we look at our product ecosystem. The sun in the center of our product ecosystem is our personal training courses. So like I was saying, when I've been in the fitness industry for a couple of years, people started coming to me and going, I want to be in the fitness industry, that looks cool. I did a degree in sports science, but I don't want to work in that. So that's when I started delivering personal training qualifications. Instead of trying to compete with everybody who wanted to be a personal trainer, I positioned myself as the person who was going to educate people so that they too could enter the industry. It was more exciting for me. It was exciting to be able to allow people to pursue a new career. Getting in shape's great, but if you can help other people help people get into shape, you are you're serving a wider audience. So there's more people that you can impact. If we train 100 PTs this month and they all go on to have 30 clients each, then think about how many more people we've serviced if we just be doing personal training. So our main product is personal training courses. My job is to try and think of ways that we can expand that operation and how we can add other elements to our product ecosystem. So the personal training courses are great. They serve as the baseline, but what we're also trying to do is look at different areas of the industry that we can impact. So once someone's done a personal training course, what's next for them? What does the student pathway look like? What does their career pathway look like? Can we get them into a job? Can we work with a gym to get them sustainable income in a job? Can we work with them when they're in that job to help them increase their revenue? Is there skills gaps or shortages in their knowledge which we can help them with? Do they want to get into sports massage? Do they want to get into exercise referral? So the personal training courses are our bread and butter, but what we're trying to really do is build a bigger, wider business off the back of that. Is there a monthly reoccurring subscription model that we can look at so they can pay monthly to be part of our network? So how do we provide the people that we get in as much value going forward so that we support them on every step of their journey? How do we work with big gym groups to solve a problem that they have? Because you're paid proportionately to the size of the problem that you solve. If you help someone get in shape, that's great. You're solving a reasonably big problem for one person, so you're going to be paid proportionately to that. If you can help a major corporation solve one of their biggest issues, which is that they don't have enough personal trainers, and they need personal trainers in order to continue making the hundreds of millions of pounds a year of profit that they continue to make, then you're solving a way bigger problem for a way bigger client. So that's the main focus point for us. Who are the people's problems that we can solve? how does our main product offer actually do that? So now my main thing is working with corporations to look at where they've got a recruitment issue, helping them put newly qualified personal trainers into those roles, which is how FitProX is growing so rapidly. If we were just working with people, getting them qualified into a personal training role, yeah, it would do well, but because we've got that entire pathway of...
It's like an infrastructure, isn't it?
Yeah, we're building an infrastructure essentially, but we're doing it on behalf of those corporations. Their biggest issue is that they don't have enough personal trainers to work in their gyms.
So effectively, you are like a recruiter, aren't you, for personal trainers?
Yeah.
But not only are you recruiting the personal trainers, you're actually qualifying the personal trainers.
We recruit the best personal trainers who aren't even personal trainers yet. Because if you've already got a pool of people, then you're competing with everybody else who's recruiting that pool of people. We create our pool of people. So instead of having a pool of people, we create them. They'll come through our student journey into their career, but they're not. It's a closed loop. There's no opportunity for another recruitment partner to come and snatch them because they're inside of our journey. So instead of being like, okay, are you a qualified personal trainer? We've got a job for you at XYZ gym. We go, do you have a passion for fitness? Do you enjoy working out? Do you enjoy helping people? Are you a chatty, outgoing person? We have a start-to-end solution for you. So we'll work with that person. We will work them through getting them ready for that job. And then at the end of the month, when we've got 100 people who are all ready to go, we go, you've got an interview there, you've got an interview there, you've got an interview there. And we push them straight into employment so that they're ready to go. But they didn't exist. 3, 4, 5 months ago, they weren't a personal trainer. So we've took them through this entire journey. So yeah, a big part of what we do is recruitment, but we'll never advertise that because we're not recruiting to anybody. We're taking them through and we're putting them into a career. And obviously for us, that's really fulfilling as well, because you're seeing people go from being in an industry that they don't like to being established in a gym doing a job that they like. The difference between us and how other companies do it, they have one product, courses. We have a bigger product, which is a career, and our courses are reflective of the career that that person's going to do. So as opposed to a disconnect between you do the course, then you go off and you're on your own, try and get a job. We build a course which is career orientated. They're learning the things that they're going to need in their job because we've already got the job for them here. The job's here. We've just reverse engineered a system of getting them into that job, regardless of whether they're already qualified, they're not qualified, they've got a qualification which is no longer recognised by Ofqual. Whichever stage of the process they're on, we've got the solution for them. And then when they're in the gym, that's not the end of it, they're not done. We've got training to help them be successful, take their earnings up, so they're not just left to their own devices. You know, it's like students for life, not just for Christmas.
But if you, so for the layman's terms, for the average, listener or viewer, who doesn't fully understand that, I totally understand what you're doing. Joe blogs, works with yourselves. He's not a PT yet. You'll qualify him as a PT. He'll do the relevant course. You'll then get him a placement in a pure gym, for argument's sake. The aftercare isn't with pure gym, it's with yourself, so he can be the best personal trainer to flourish within the pure gym. Mm-hmm. Why is it that you feel the need to manage that person and help them through it when surely they're now a member of pure gym? Isn't that their job to nourish their own personal trainers? Because if you're working with corporations, plural, and you've got different gyms, each gym will surely have their own way that they want their personal trainers to be. So how can you really manage that when you've got such a diverse client base in terms of the corporations? And I think that's, I guess what I'm asking you is, if the average guy qualifies, why is it that they would benefit with you rather than just qualifying as a PT and applying for a gym?
It's obviously we've got people that we're speaking to within those corporations. So when we were creating the course, we were building it based on the specifications that those big gyms had. So rather than them getting somebody who's done a bog standard course, which then they then have to learn all of the systems and things in that gym, we've went to the employers, we've found their pain points, and we've integrated that into the course. The reason we do it, as opposed to just letting them go, because what benefit is it to us, is that when you're a personal trainer, you're doing, 40, 50 hours a week of personal training, you're smashing it, and people go to you and go, who did you do your personal training qualification with? They're going to say, those guys, you need to go and see them. They help you every step of the way. They'll help you get a job. They'll help you keep getting clients when you're in that job. So that's why we do it, because if you get a personal training certificate and go back to work in your 9-to-5 job, nobody's going to ask you where you did your PT course. Mm-hmm. So we're best incentivized because we have to take care of our core offering, which is our son in this product ecosystem, which is our personal training courses. So our marketing budget is making sure that each student has a remarkable experience, because then they're going to be pushing people back to us. Secondly, like we said, obviously these corporations, they're stretched. They're not always operated by fitness people. Quite often people will transition from other industries where, human resources management has been their background. It's not necessarily the fitness side of things. They don't necessarily have a mentor in that facility who can be helping them. But actually the way that our courses are derived and the way that they work is that we place mentors in each of the individual gyms. So rather than having a centralized teaching team, we train up individuals in those corporations to be able to mentor the students who are there. So rather than FitProX having somebody in every gym in the country, we'll have a mentor in those gyms who's gone through training through ourselves. And obviously their job is to run a gym. Our job is to educate people. So if they can lean on us a little bit, and if they can use our resources to help educate their people, they're a business. If we can be, my idea is that I want to benefit that business because we'll get more work from them. Because when somebody comes to them and goes, who do I do my PT course with? They don't even think. They send them to us. They go, FitProX, these are the guys to help you. Because not only do they help you every step of the way. They help you get in, and then they even help you when you're here. Because if you're a business, any additional resources to your business are going to be beneficial.
That's what I mean. It's almost like you've got the perfect infrastructure that you've built. Credit to yourself, mate, and your team, because I think that's ultimately, when I look at someone like Apple, I look at their aftercare and I look at, okay, it's not necessarily, don't get me wrong, the product, I've used them for the last 10 years now, but I would also say that I know when something happens to my phone, I know I'll be sorted. Whereas if I go, I've bought an Android phone and I've got to go down the local shop to get certain things fixed, I don't have that person in my pocket. Obviously with FitProX, they've got that, which is unbelievable. Same as a content PT business, you do a shoot. If you've got any problems with lighting, sound, audio, how to structure reels, whatever it may be, you know that whoever works for me can always ring us and ask us. And even if they don't have the answers themselves, I can always help them. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I know a lot of videographers who will do the product and piss off, and that's pretty much it.
Not my problem anymore.
Yeah, which becomes purely transactional. There's no real relationship built, and that's why again, having you on, I was really interested, because I know quite a few people in the fitness industry, and I know that there's certain routes to market and stuff, but the way you're doing it's quite interesting, because you haven't just focused on, again, the handover. It's been a whole infrastructure which you've built. I want to talk about personal trainers, Alex, and in 2024, how successful can a personal trainer actually be? And the reason I ask you that is a lot of people, and predominantly everyone who I work with, are online coaches. Mm-hmm. And I know that's why it was really interesting to have you on, because you effectively want to keep people in gyms, because that's your business model, right? For me, I know that you can make a lot of money outside of the gym and a lot more money outside of the gym as an online coach. And it's never always going to be the case, but you're kind of uncapped when you're online. How successful can a personal trainer be in 2024?
There's the most important thing to consider when answering this question, and it's a question that I get quite often, because obviously we're constantly speaking to students. Obviously, I don't speak to students as much on the onboarding stage, because we've got a team of people who do that. But if I do speak to students, if I'm in gyms, that's a great question that people ask. What's the market cap? Where do I sit within that? Can I carve out a business for myself in a competitive industry? The question is, what does success look like to you? Because if, for example, you work in a job that you really dislike and you make minimum wage doing so, in order to replace that income, you'd probably need, let's say, 100 personal training sessions per month at £30 per session is £3,000 per month. Let's say you've paying a gym out of that, you come away with about $2,500. So you've beat minimum wage and you're making a little bit more than that. But more importantly, are you doing the job that you hate anymore? So now you're doing a job that you like, you enjoy it, it's more on your terms, you're in an environment that you enjoy, you're probably working less hours than you used to before. So is that success then? Because you've now, even if you made the same money doing, for example, take the money that you make right now. Would you do this job if you absolutely hated it to make the exact same amount of money?
No.
So
I'd take less, I'd take a cut.
You would take less. You've worked jobs that you didn't like in the past, because we've spoken about it. Think about making the amount of money that you made in that job, making the exact same amount of money, but doing that job versus what you do now. So in my eyes, you're already successful because you're actually enjoying what you're doing. Now, tie in the fact that you've got, like you said, more scope for making money. So for me, it's not necessarily about getting people into gyms. For us, it's about creating sustainable self-employment and increasing their enterprise opportunities, however that looks. So one route that I know works for that is to first off establish yourself in a gym, having as much touch points with clients as possible, getting as good results as you possibly can. If then you decide that you want to transition away from the gym floor, now you've got a catalog of clients that you're working with that you can shift into online clients, and then you can also give yourself more time to go fully online, then that's perfect for us. We'll support them every step of the way, because it's not necessarily about somebody going and working in a commercial gym and staying there for the next 10 years. If it's a case of going in there for a year, building up a client base, and then slowly tailoring themselves off of being a one-to-one personal trainer and into the uncapped market of being an online coach, then we'll support them with that. Obviously, the gym has a problem, but it has a problem anyway, because if you're good enough, you'll transition away from it anyway, or you'll go to a different gym. So the gym's problem remains, and we will still fulfill that. So regardless of whether someone stays at the commercial gym for a year and then transition online, which we'll completely support them with, or if they stay there for the next 5 years, we will be bringing through the next wave of personal trainers anyway. So for us, it doesn't really matter. And in fact, if they then go on to be an online coach who's making 5, 6, 7, 8 grand a year, even more people are going to ask them where they got qualified, and they're going to send even more people back to us, because at the end of the day, the more we support that person to do whatever success looks like to them, the better. Some people want to work in a physical location because, as you know, and as I know, there's perks to being on your laptop. I could go and spend the next 3 months in a different country just working off my laptop. I've got a team, I've got an infrastructure, I've got a business that supports that. I'd be tearing my hair out because I would just be, the lines would blur between my life, my personal life, and my professional life, because you've got people messaging you around the clock. Obviously, I'd have to start taking into consideration different time zones, which we have to take into consideration now. You know, if we're working with gyms in the UAE, if we're working with gyms in Washington, my day starts at 5 and finishes at 10, because that's when people can be communicating with me, because that's when they're up. So there's pros and cons. Some people want to go to a gym, check in, do their sessions, chat to people. You know, if they're an extrovert, their social battery might charge by being around people. You know, if they're making 3, 4, 5 grand a month doing that, then they go home, clock off. You know, they might set the boundaries with their clients. You know, don't message me after 6 o'clock, please. And don't message me before 8. These are my working hours. You've got the option to build that, whatever success looks like for you. So when you ask, how can you become a successful personal trainer in 2024? Is there scope to become a successful personal trainer in 2024? You choose what success looks like to you. You reverse engineer a business that is your metrics for success, and you stick to that. If you work for somebody else, if you work in a job, things can change.
I think when you said about choosing what success looks like for you, I agree, 100% agree, because if I could do the content PT for free, but I could just keep it or just survive, I would do it, because I love it that much. But I also think when I say success, I totally mean that. But I also think there's a financial uncapped sexiness to the online community. And I think a lot of people will look at the MIKE Thurstons of the world and look at these guys who've travelled the world, they've amassed a following, they're making stupid amounts of money per month. I think a lot of people think, why would I spend time in the gym making $2,000 or $3,000 a month after I've paid me rent, X, Y, and Z, working, around the clock, to be able to be on the laptop and do the same thing. The question I've got for you, Alex, is something that I'm curious about. How many people who qualify as a personal trainer stay within a job? Is there a certain drop-off?
Actually work in the job that they're currently doing?
Yeah, so I wonder, because I know a lot of people who've got PT qualifications and they're literally working in call centres because they couldn't sustain their own job, they couldn't get the clients, and I always say to them, maybe you could market yourself online.
Yeah.
I'm not just trying to sell my own service, but the problem with that is the more you market yourself online, you start creating noise, but then you're going to create online noise, which is going to detract you away from the gym floor. So it's almost like a bit of a dichotomy, isn't it, between, okay, if I go balls to the wall social media and create some noise, draw up some interest for my personal training service, I'm going to get hired by a guy in Luton. Now that doesn't help me if I'm trying to work in Washington Pure Gym. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the main takeaways from what you're saying there is that when you think about the Mike Thurstons of the world, I classify those guys almost, and you could make a good argument, they're almost like professional athletes. They're in the top 0.1% of this sport. If this was a sport, they'd be in the top 0.1% of this sport. They are essentially, and I know he's got a good knowledge, they've all got good knowledge of fitness and stuff like that, but they're essentially marketers. Their majority of their time and effort will go into marketing, whether that's going and doing photo shoots, whether that's making sure that they stay in great shape to attract people, whether that's doing the kind of sales and marketing part of their business. That's not everybody's like main focus point and interest. Not everybody's as interested in the marketing side of things. Some people are more interested in the actual in-person doing the sessions and, nurturing the 30 people that they work with, because those guys will work with hundreds of people, thousands of people, to the point where they probably don't really know their clients.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think someone like Mike Thurston is a better PT than everyone else, and that's why he's got the client base? Or do you think he's just a better marketer?
Obviously, there's a few things to take into consideration when you look at people like that success. When did they enter the market? What were they early? I'd say that he was quite early in terms of getting in there and establishing himself. Does he have a differentiator which separates him from the majority of people who'd want to do that? I think we could both agree that he has a differentiator in the fact that he's in the top 0.1% of the physiques. He looks better than pretty much anybody else on the planet. Do you know what I mean? Like, to put it bluntly, you could probably, I couldn't sit here and name 100 people who look better than him. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't think I could name 5.
No, probably not. So he's got a differentiator where he looks so much better. He's understood the marketing principles. He's understood how to create a business around that. So, he probably has other products as well. He probably has a product ecosystem, and then he has other things that he does off the back of that. He definitely has invested in it. So when he's had the money to be able to do it, and this was a big part of, most businesses in the Industrial Revolution. The reason that they got ahead of other companies is they originally had the income to create more infrastructure, and then that infrastructure created more income, and then that income created more infrastructure until they got to a point where they were virtually uncatchable, because they'd set themselves apart. And it's obviously like it's a spiral effect, isn't it? If you get more popular, you get more money. If you get more money, you can reinvest that back into the infrastructure, so you grow bigger and bigger and bigger. You can spend more money on marketing. You can spend more money on photographers, locations, better photographers, better locations, more marketing. So then you get to a point where you see exponential growth, because now, what is the barrier to entry? Okay, do you look as good as Mike? Fortunately, person A looks as good as Mike, right? So we've ticked that off. So you're in the top 0.1% of genetics and people who look good. Now, do you have the income to go after that infrastructure? Can you move to a different country today to make sick content? Do you have the know-how to be able to employ the people, to be able to do the sales calls, the this, that, and the other? It's a business. He is not a personal trainer. He's a business person, and fitness is his product.
The reason I brought Mike Thurston up, though, was because he had a gym in this area. And he's managed to leave that behind and become this guy. So he was once, you could argue, the perfect student of yourself. So what do you think, other than his genetics, what do you think he's done differently? Because would you say it's all down to just the way he's marketed it?
What's happening, guys? I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, please hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and press the notification bell so you don't miss another episode.
Not necessarily all down to the way he's marketed, but he's positioned himself well. He's created a brand off of the back of what he's doing. He's understood what his assets are, the importance that he's placed on particular parts of his business to grow them. So I imagine, obviously, I don't really know much about his story, but I imagine that he's, looked at what's worked in his business. He understands what his assets are, and he's dug deep into those verticals and invested back into them. Is he necessarily a much better personal trainer than someone that you would just find in Newcastle? I think, there gets a point where, regardless of whether you know this much or you know a lot more, there's a kind of level when it comes to understanding that you have to have of the fitness industry. So as long as you understand how to train somebody, what their goals might be, how to manipulate their macronutrients, all of these things which you learn as a personal trainer, the more and more you go past that, it doesn't necessarily equate to more and more success, because essentially what you'll just be doing is you'll be creating more content for other personal trainers than you are for clients, because in order to get into good shape, you need to be able to teach someone this, and this. And if you almost get to a stage where you're an expert, PhD level in the nuances of biomechanics or biology and anatomy and physiology, it's not really going to resonate with that many people. In fact, most people would just be like, I don't need to know that. I need to know how to lose 10 pounds before I go to Marbella. So it's like learning so much more about something might take you out of being able to work with general population. So I don't think necessarily being him, whether he is an expert personal trainer or he knows just enough to be able to coach people, I don't think that would have as big of an impact on him, on his actual business.
So that's fair enough. So do you think, on the flip side then, Alex, do you think you can be a successful bad personal trainer?
Yes.
So you can make a shitload of money, have a really basic knowledge, and still do well.
Yeah.
And if so, how do you do that?
So if you market yourself well enough.
So that's what I'm getting at. It's all down to the marketing, isn't it? Because for me, I never want to work with a personal trainer who I believe doesn't know his stuff, because I feel like effectively I'm promoting them. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to really be part of that.
Yeah.
Again, when I work with you, I know you've did it from literally the ground up. You've helped people. You've did all these things. And even when I film with you, I mean, I told you this in person, like, I very rarely came across clients. I mean, all the clients that I have, I've got them for a reason, because I'm very selective with who I work with now. But there's very few people who can speak as well as you on camera about this subject. And I feel like, bang, that's the box ticked. He knows his shit. You could be fat and out of shape, but I still know you know your stuff. And I think for me, I would always look into knowledge. I get your body's your business card. I understand all that totally. But I think there's a fickle and shallow side to that. I think ultimately you can still get someone in great shape when you're not in shape yourself. And I think it's like anything. You can be an unbelievable videographer, but you don't have to just work on the last set of Bad Boys. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be some kind of spectrum. And with you, I just think, can you be a bad personal trainer and actually become financially very successful?
So there's two things to that. Obviously, you've got your initial point of sale. So if you can market yourself and put a sales plan together, which is going to be so good, you can always have an influx of new clients. And as long as you can mitigate negative talk online to the point where nobody really sees it, then you can be good. You can be a snake oil salesman. You can just be selling some bullshit plan, which is just rinse and repeat, which isn't really going to get people results, but you can only sell it once. So you got to do it well. You got to sell it to a very, very wide audience, and you got to sell it for not a lot of money. Because one, if it becomes too high, the price, people will do a lot more digging. They'll do a lot more, looking around, and they'll probably look at your profile, and they will get an idea as to whether you're full of shit or not. The other thing is, most good businesses, most big businesses, rely on recurring revenue models. So even looking at the biggest businesses now, you look at your Amazons, you look at your Apples, they all have a monthly recurring revenue model. So, Apple has its apps, it has its, paying for cloud storage. It has all these things which rely on you to stay on Apple. Amazon has Amazon Prime, all of these things that rely you to stay on those big businesses. If the core offering was shit, then people would leave and they'd lose that reoccurring revenue model. So if you're really good and you can make 100 PT, let's say you could sell 100 plans a month, okay? And your plan was £80, you can make £8,000 a month, okay? You've got to sell 100 times a month. So you can have an infrastructure in place and do all of that. Why then wouldn't you work on your business being good enough that you could retain that so they pay £80 every month? Because surely that would be a better business model. So,
but what I would challenge you with that is, Alex, is if you look at someone like, let's say, I don't know, Lamborghini, big business, global, I bet you they don't have a lot of recurring business. Yeah, they might buy a Lambo every few years, but they're only buying the one. They're not coming back. They're not getting upsold. They're not. If you buy this, you get this, and we're going to upsell you to this wheel. And
yeah,
I get that might be in the initial.
Yeah.
So how do them businesses?
None of those businesses are owned by that company.
Yeah.
So Lamborghini, Ferrari,
they've got
Bentley.
Multiple.
Well, no, they're all owned by a bigger company. So Lamborghini is owned by Volkswagen Group.
Yeah.
So
Porsche and that,
Volkswagen, Audi, all those things. So they know that their market is a very specific person who buys Lamborghinis, but Volkswagens are being sold every day, hundreds a day.
Yeah, I love
so
this.
So it's like,
we talked about this, didn't we? Like a Fiat 500. People buy them every day, but they're not buying Porsches every day.
Yeah, and you can even see, like, look at an Audi. So an Audi RS Q8 and a Lamborghini Urus are essentially the same car. Yeah. Pretty much the same engine, pretty much look the same. So I guess, like, within those businesses, they have their kind of luxury model. So it's all about their product ecosystem. And this is the thing that Apple, you made a great example of Apple before, talking about how you've been using Apple for more than 10 years, okay? For me, the iPhone, the hardware, is my personal training courses. It's my sun. It's my central offering within my solar system. Without that, everything dies. Without the sun, nothing grows, everything dies. But does Apple make more of its money from its software or its hardware? So in 2024, Apple's making way more money from its software than it is from its hardware. So it makes money from every time you buy an app on the App Store, Apple gets 30%. Every time you use Apple Pay on your phone, Apple makes a commission. Every time you buy storage, which probably doesn't cost Apple anything, they make money. So their main revenue comes from the products within their product ecosystem, which circle the sun. Now, if Apple stopped selling their iPhones tomorrow, that all goes away. Yeah, people would have Apple phones for 2 years, 3 years, it runs out, but then you buy a competitor and that all ends. So it's about having that core product ecosystem, one thing that everything revolves around. If Apple set up its company 30 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever it was, and just decided to sell software, people would go, great, but where do I put this software? Where does it live? How do I use it? There would be no Apple.
So for personal trainers, Alex, would you say then be the best personal trainer, but also have an offering?
Have like a product, 100%. Have a product ecosystem. So if you're a personal trainer, you're one-to-one, core, bread and butter, until it's not, until you can transition into something else if that's what you want to. Because remember, you're not a personal trainer. You're a business person, but your product's fitness. And fitness doesn't just look like one-to-one personal training sessions in a gym. It could look like plans. It could look like online coaching. It could look like a supplement company. It could look like anything. It's understanding that you're a business person and business is fluid. It moves with the times. You need to be able to adjust. You need to be able to overcome things. So thinking of your core offering as your one-to-one personal training sessions. Okay, what's next? So Tony wanted to sign up in Luton, but I'm in Washington and I can't service him with my one-to-one personal training. Luckily, within my product ecosystem, I have a £125 a month online coaching plan, which I will check in with him weekly and I'll send his training and nutrition plans. So that's okay. So now Tony can work with me as well. So I've got my 10 in-person clients who pay me X amount to do X amount of sessions. I have my online offering for people who can't get to me. I've got a hybrid model for people who can only get to me once a month or twice a month. And then I have plans for people who can't commit to paying 3 months and then working with me on a larger scale. So they pay £40 and they get my ultimate chest and back workout plan, which they can just use whenever they want. I have a discount code for supplements for a company that I work with. So, it's understanding that if I just set up selling protein, I probably wouldn't be able to make enough money to live. However, if I was personal training 30 people in person, 40 online, I've got this community, I've got this, that, and the other, and I put a code in there for my protein, and I get 20% of all the sales, and that does £5,000 a month of sales because I've got all those people who are constantly buying protein, and I make a grand kickback from that. That goes into my ecosystem. I stop the training, that dies. I cut the head off the snake, and that stops. If I stop these personal training courses and just focus on working with those big gyms to try and help recruit for them, I'm now competing with everybody else. I've got my own supply here of people who come in, so I never cut the head off the snake. I keep working on that, I keep growing that, but the next thing that you do, which is a stepping stone from the business that you're in now, could make you more. A big gym company could start paying me millions to start putting PTs in, because HR and recruitment is such a stumbling block for them. It's such a problem that their business suffers if they don't get it. And
I think that what you've just said though about you're not a PT, you're a business person with a fitness product. I think that's fucking unbelievable.
Well, I'm stealing that from my first business partner.
I think if every single PT who works with myself, yourself, anybody listening, just past the qualification, whatever it may be, if you think like that, that is powerful. Like,
well, look at what you're doing now. Are you a videographer?
Yeah, but see, you know what's so funny? So, I'm a videographer who complements the fitness industry with a service. Mm-hmm. But I know this sounds crazy, and I've actually said this on another podcast. I could literally start a gardening business and I'll be just as passionate, because it's business that excites me. Mm-hmm. Video, that just happened to be the skill. That's you know what I mean? I'm a videographer by trade, if you like. And I've did it for a long period of time, and I've managed to carve something out of it. But I could have just as easily been excited about buying a lawnmower and doing some old lady's garden down the street and building that and putting business cards out. I love that whole thing. I don't know what it is. I can get excited by education. I get excited by a listing of product on Amazon. I can just get excited about anything. So, which can actually be at a detriment to me sometimes, because I'll get in again back to being excitable. I can think of an idea and think, okay, I want to start doing this, but then that could take away. So now it's all ecosystem, as you said. It's all got to marry or intertwine in some way, which can service the bigger picture, which needs to be, for me, it's my passion, the fitness industry. It's what I love. I love to see people do well, to change people. I love all that type of stuff, and it's a mint feeling, and it can make great money as well. With your model, I think a lot of people will ask the question that, you know, I'll try and ask the question that people may want to ask you. With what you're doing, how lucrative is it?
In terms of the education side of things?
Your whole ecosystem? Can what you're doing make you a millionaire? Or are you already there?
I can't. It's HMRC watching.
Because, you know, I think it's important.
In terms of the main product offering, we probably have a ceiling with how many people that we can service. This can be a multi-million pound business.
Can be.
There's enough scope. I mean, we do all right. I think
this guy's a G.
So the reason I got into the education side of things, even though personal training was going well for me, is because the first millionaires in the gold rush are the people who sell the shovels. The people who service the industry, just like you service the industry.
Yeah, but you're making the shovels, Alex.
I'm making the shovels, selling them, and every bit of gold they get, I get a commission on it. I take the gold back after with the shovel, and I go, did you shovel that gold with my shovel? That's my gold.
We also make the gold.
Yeah, we also make the gold. We're keeping a reserve back to pump the prices up. Yeah, I think what we're doing now, For me, it was the strategic partnerships that we've created. So I've sought after who are the biggest players in my industry. So who's making so I'm not talking about, there's online coaches out there who are making 30, 40. I was like, right, who's making billions in this industry? So that was my question. Mm-hmm. Who's making billions in this industry? And there's people making billions in this industry. So I found the people who are making the most in the industry and aligned myself with them, because if they're making billions and I can get the crumbs, then we can make millions. So I've had to, every stage I've kind of like surpassed the people that we were working with. So everybody that we've ever worked with, I've got in with them, I've got to their level, I've surpassed it. And now I've set my sights on who's the biggest companies who are making the most money, what problems do they have, how do I solve them? So now that's what we're doing, we're positioning ourselves. So Previously, as a personal trainer, you know, our goal in 2025 is to do 400 personal training students per month. So, you know, 400 PT students per month. It's not bad. We've got the infrastructure now to do that. So we've got enough gyms to be able to give us the amount of leads. I did a video actually with you. Mm-hmm. There's 2 steps to becoming successful. Step 1 is determine what success looks like for you and understand how many people you need to do a certain thing in order for you to be successful. So for me, I need 400 people to sign up for a personal training course per month for my idea of success. 1, that allows us to make the revenue necessary. 2, it allows us the pipeline to be able to support my partners who need the students. So that's what success looks like for me. Okay, so if that's what success looks like for me, how many conversations need to be had, not necessarily with me, but the wider team, in order to fulfill step 1? So if I need 400 people, do we need to be in front of 4,000 people, 40,000 people, 400,000 people? It doesn't matter what the number is. If you're an e-commerce business, in order to do 400 sales, you might need to be in front of 4 million people. If you're a business like us, in order to do 400 sales, we probably need to be in front of 2,000 people per month to do that. 2,000 people to get 400 sales. What are the steps to reach those 2,000 people? And that's essentially it. It's step 1, what do you need? Step 2, how many conversations need to be had to do that? We're well on our way to do it. I think, you know, we've done just over 100 starts for September, so that should go up until we're doing the 400 as we roll this plan out nationwide.
I can see where you're going, and I wish you all success in the world, mate. I really do, because I feel like, again, you're someone who's clearly just going for it. And it's funny because although you're very professional, I can see the side of you winging it as well. And I see that in a lot of people. I mean, I've had guys who've got companies worth 50 million and more, and they've all wung it to bits.
Yeah,
if that's even a word. But we're all just having a go, and I think that's what it is. With you said there, in order to be successful, the 400 Now that screams to me, okay, Alex success then, because if that pulls off, you'll be a millionaire. Why is making millions something that you would derive success from?
I've never really put a financial amount on what I need to be successful. No, but that's your goal,
isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's just to get to the stage where we can, you know, invest in more infrastructure to do it bigger. So I'll not get to there and be like, okay, we've done it. That's just my goal is to make whatever I'm doing 5 years ago seem tiny, regardless of what it is. I want what we're doing now, which is the biggest, scariest thing that I've ever done. These pictures, putting this whole thing together, building a team, building it out. I want that to look like insignificant in 5 years, because for me, it's just about moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that where you get it?
Yeah, moving forward, bigger. You know, like someone told me that business is like a jungle, and the further you get into the jungle, just nothing changes. The more money you make, just the bigger the things are that are trying to kill you. The bigger the animals that are trying to kill you.
But you could happily stop in your tracks in the jungle and not get bigger animals right now. So why would you want to face the bigger animals?
Because it's all about the challenge. Like what's out there, like what's the challenge? And it's not necessarily about every year or so when the income catches up. Because for me as well, like we're projected out. So I know what we've done and what income it'll bring in a year. So I already know the figures for the next 6, 9, 12 months. So I know what the figures will be like. So by the time I get there and the actual income's in, I've already done it, because it's it's like I've eventually caught up to it in reality, what it theoretically was going to be. But obviously I've been living 12 months down the line already, not with spends and things, but just the mentality. So like what we're doing now is far better than we've ever done before. But this was the work from 12 months ago. So the work from 12 months ago is what I'm going now.
It's weird, isn't it? It's almost like you like time traveling.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're living next year now, and but then that can help you ultimately plan for the year after as well. Being a lad who's had a go out modelling and basketball, I know you, and obviously athletics and doing all the things you've did, I can see there's a, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I can see there's a desire of wanting to be the guy. I think every lad's got that in some way. I know I've got it as well. Like, I think even starting a podcast, I think I'd be lying to myself if I said I didn't want to be the best podcast. I don't just want a podcast. I want to be better than any other podcast. Of course I do. So, but at the same time, I'm always aware now, and I've learnt this in failed businesses that I've had, to actually just enjoy every fucking podcast, mate. Like, and for you, how does it feel where you are now, in the success you've got at the moment? I know it's getting bigger and bigger. It's compounding. How does that differ to being a guy modelling? Is it everything you wanted?
See, I think, like, you know, every time you achieve something, you can start thinking about the next thing. I think what I'm trying to do now is, you know, think and prepare and plan for the future, but also try and enjoy the present as much as I can. So, like, try and, like, revel in the moment a little bit and try and, you know, just think consciously about, you know, actually, like, this is what we were working towards, and we're kind of here. A big part of me, and this is probably something that not many people know about me until you, like, meet me and you see me around the people that I'm around. The goal was never to do this by myself. The idea of that, you could say to me, right, Alex, you'll make, you know, 10 mil a year yourself post-tax, but you're doing it by yourself. There's no one to share in it with you. You've left everybody behind. That nobody can relate to you anymore. I'd say no thanks. Literally, I'd say no thanks, because it was all about doing it with the people who I'm around. It was never about, like, trying to do stuff and surpass people. The first thing, whenever we have a little bit more success, I think, right, who can I bring in? Who's been there for me that I can bring in? Who can I do stuff with? Got a bit more money now. How can I bring in this person? How can I help this person? How can I get this person in so that they can share in it? It was never about climbing the ladder and pulling it up behind me. That's the worst thing. It's not necessarily about what I do. It's about the people that I do it with, going down to meetings with your mates, and just, you know, creating an environment at work where everybody's like, where everyone feels like they can be themselves and they're all working towards it. Like, I never have viewed this company as my company, even though obviously largely it is. It's everybody who works with me's company. You know, it's their company as much as it's my company. I think they need that skin
in the game, though. They need that. For you to fulfill your vision, you need buy-in. In order to get buy-in, sometimes some people have got to have a piece of the pie themselves, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know I've certainly did jobs which I've referred to when I filmed Floyd Mayweather or some big name, and I've been like, and luckily at the time I actually brought colleagues of mine down to that, and they weren't just colleagues, they were good friends as well that I brought on board in the business, and I was like, do you know what's crazy? Like, I've got to share that moment, but then there's also been jobs when they're massive, like, they're literally like me dream jobs, and I've did them alone, and you're so right when you say that, because I've been like, fuck,
I wish
it's all cool, but I'm driving home on my own.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a podcast now, driving back, and I'm like, fucking hell. Like, it's weird, innit? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I think a lot of people, you know, it's sometimes success, don't get me wrong, financials are great, but I think, ask yourself the question, would you half your financial success if you could share it with someone? Because that fun is also success, isn't it? Like, would you chop out 50% financially to replace it with 50% fun?
Yeah. And I would just, the thing is, I wouldn't settle on where I was. I would just keep pushing onwards, so that like, I think that you can go further with somebody anyway. So me having the excitement of doing it with other people and the fun of doing that will push me on further anyway. And I think that I pay myself last, no matter what, with everything, whether it's at the end of the month, whether it's, you know, I pay out everything before I take mine. So I feel like you get more from, like, you know, if we do really well and we absolutely smash it, everybody else is going to get paid before me. And I'll feel like I've been paid every single time they get paid. People are going to get bonuses, people are going to get more, people are going to get incentives, people are going to get things that they didn't expect. And that's one thing, like, I want to do stuff for other people as well, because I do get a lot out of it. Like, I enjoy that side of things. I enjoy seeing other people be like, oh shit, we've actually done something here. We've actually done something. And I'm like, there you go. That's literally for you. You've done so much to help us. Thank you so much. And they get that, and they're like, and then when I get mine at the very end, it's almost like I've lived it a couple of times because they're getting it first.
That's unbelievable. That like
it's not. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm no fucking Mother Teresa. Do you
yeah,
know what I mean?
no,
I'm not,
I
like, fucking
get
out
that.
but like the people who've helped me and the people who like supported me, I always think about that. And usually when I think about things, look, there's only so many things that you can do. Like there's only so many things that you can kind of enjoy and buy and shit like that. Like for me, I get just as much out of giving to somebody else, like buying something for someone else that they weren't expecting, like sorting somebody else out with something, because you know, you kind of get to like, one, you get the excitement of buying it still. So like you still get to go in and buy something, or you still get to go in and like do something, but then you get to like give it away, and they're happy as well. And I just want to do that.
I'm after like a date just.
Yeah, is that what
so
you told me that you didn't want a fancy watch, and it wasn't you.
Whenever you want to buy that thing, like I would take it.
Yeah.
Like
we'll get in a queue, mate. We'll have it in 4 years. I'll put us in a queue with Goldsmith.
Mate, so
4 years.
For personal trainers, listen, right?
Yeah.
What things do you identify quickly, other than I want to be a personal trainer, bro? Mm-hmm. What do you think someone needs to have to be successful?
Okay, so you don't need to have this, but one of the biggest like markers, one of the biggest signals to me that you're going to be successful. What does your network look like now, and how capable are you of expanding that? So if you came to me and you were like, mate, I love the gym. I've been training for like 5-6 years. They're in decent shape. They look after themselves. I've been working in car sales, and I make good money, but I just don't love it. I'm thinking to myself, you're chatty, you already look like you could be a personal trainer, you've got a network of 500 people in the past 2 years who've spent upwards of 20 grand on a car. If you apply that, you will be successful because you already have the starting blocks. And it's not to say that if you don't have a network, then you can't be successful, but you better think consciously about how you're going to build your network. Because it used to be, you know, people always used to say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, now it's who knows you, who knows what you're doing, who is, you know, keyed in on what you're up to, because they're the people who can help impact your business.
So is social media the answer to that?
It's not necessarily social media. I think people get the misconception that it all has to be through social media. Like, not everybody's network is built on social media. In fact, I'd argue if you had 1,000 email addresses of people who would open them, that's so much better than having 1,000 followers who only see 9% of your posts. So do you have a way of building a network? Do you understand how to build a network? Do you already have one? They're 3 factors. The next thing is, do you love this? Do you actually love it? Because I loved it. I love doing what I'm doing now. The reason that I won't be beaten by somebody else, another competitor who doesn't love this, is because this doesn't feel like work to me. So if you feel like you're working, and every day you set your alarm and you're like, fucking hell, I got work tomorrow, you've already lost. Because I'm going to come in with so much more enthusiasm than you, to the point where what feels like work for you, leaving at 6 o'clock, we're still there till midnight doing it, having a good crack, and just like, you know, we talk about like, oh, you know, well, these are the fucking times that we'll look back on, blah, 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 laughing about it. You know, traveling all over the country, doing thousands of miles. You know that yourself. The wheels must have been off yours, you know, every couple of months, mate, getting new tires on. So it's like, it's that thing, like, do they actually love it? Do they have a passion for it? Do they understand how to build a network? Every single thing can be taught. You know, I wasn't born knowing how to count 10 reps on a bench press.
No, but I think I don't know, I'm always at conflict with this. I feel like, can you be born? Are you born as an entrepreneur? Because you think, I share a lot of similarities with you and how you think. And I feel like for me, it's so funny, mate. And this is the sad thing, right? Because I actually quoted it in someone's in a podcast that I did. And I actually fucking did it in Ibiza last week.
Nice.
I was on the balcony and I was literally looking at flights to come to this same hotel in a few weeks' time.
Mate, I did it.
And our lass was like,
yeah,
ads, let's enjoy the holiday.
That's a problem, yeah.
And I was literally not in the holiday, looking at the next holiday.
Yeah. Mate, I was in Ushuaia looking at how much the poolside rooms were.
Savage. That
being like, I'll fucking do it. I'll do it now. who wants me to do it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was literally like...
Aye, because you've got a massive buzz from seeing Will Smith and that. And
I didn't see him, mate. I didn't fucking see him. He was in there somewhere. He was in there somewhere. I know I've really missed out there.
But that's the thing, isn't it? I think sometimes that's quite sad. I don't want to say you've got to stop to smell the roses all the time, but I still think there's got to be a point of like, I don't know. And this is
the excitement and the anticipation.
But this is the issue, and this is why I asked you about success and financials and stuff. And I wasn't trying to just be, I wasn't trying to just pick. It was more a case of like, the person that can make £1 million quickly, right, or whatever in their business, I would say they were successful. But the same person who makes 100 million, you'd say, well, why didn't he stop at 1 million? Because the characteristics that they had to get to 1 million is the same characteristic that gets to 100 million. In fact, you could argue and say it's actually easier to get to 100 million once you're at that figure. And I feel like that's the thing. It's very hard to stop and just appreciate stuff, although I'm really making a conscious effort of trying to do it now. Because I always remember being skint, and I always remember just wanting to be where I'm at so much. Mm-hmm. And even today, I'm always terrified of going back, and I kind of... It's weird. It's because like I've got a family, I've got property, I've got this, I've got that. Like, and I'm very grateful. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I was like, but imagine if it all went tomorrow, and I can't. It's never going anywhere tomorrow, but I can't get that out of my head.
It's weird, isn't it? Because this is like, I've never really felt anxious about anything. Like, that's been one of the things that, has probably allowed me to grow at a steady rate, is that I never felt that kind of anxiety, the fear of tomorrow. The back end of the last couple of months, now that things are really in place and we're no longer fighting fires and we're planning for the future, and, we've got a safety net, and, things are going well for me and I've got something to lose, is the first time that I've ever felt anxious. And I've just been like feeling like reasonably anxious about it. I've just been like, fuck, I've got something to lose now. Like, things are actually going well. And it's the first time that I've actually had something to lose. Obviously, I'm like training myself to get out of that mindset, because it's going to limit our growth, because I'm going to want to like protect what we've got.
More conservative.
So I'm physically having to think about not doing that. But yeah, it's like, do you know what's interesting, right? Your topic before. Do you know when most people start their business? 45 is the average age people start a business.
Do you think that's because they've experienced a lot of shit they don't want to do?
I think so. So when you said as an entrepreneur born, I think some of them they're born and they just get into it straight away. Some of them are crafted through seeing other people do things the way that they don't want to do them, and then they think, fuck, I can do this better, I'm going to do this better. But to take the plunge, to say average, that means that 50% of 50% of business owners started after 45.
But is that when they start, or is that when they become successful?
That's when they start their business.
Because, like, look at the guy who's got KFC. He started in his like 60s or something. Yeah. But hadn't he tried for 30 years before that? Or did he start?
Well, that's when they started the business that was successful. So yeah, maybe they've started like failed business.
Because that's what I'm saying though, even if you fail though, you still got that hunger.
But most people have started a business after they've been in that industry for a while. So they've like understood the industry, they've built up credibility, they've built up like a name for themselves, they've built up a network. So
but
that
I
when
think
they
that's
step
in you
into
though.
it.
I still think it's in you, Alex, because yeah, I think it's in you, because I've got friends who couldn't think of anything worse of starting a business.
Yeah.
And I often think I wish I was more like that, because I was like, the stress that I go through sometimes. Like, but at the same time, I also think I'm so lucky that I get to do what I get to do, and you can't experience that. But then at the same time, they've got the security of a job.
Yeah, this is the best position I've ever been in. Okay, and I know, mate,
you landed in a helicopter.
Yeah, well, fuck, the traffic is terrible. I know though that if you just took the average person and you just said, right, this is what you're doing this week. Also, you're going to have this, and this stress. And also, like, everything stops with you. There's no fucking going home, turn your phone off. There's no like, this is somebody else's problem. Every single problem on this list either has to be solved by you, or it has to be dished out by you. It has to be, you have to get somebody else to sort it and you have to oversee that, but the buck stops with you. And this is what you'll get paid for it. They'd probably go, nah, you're all right. So you wouldn't do what I do now. Like, I'm underpaid for what I do now. But I think, will I just always be underpaid for it, because the problems are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, to even the point where I'm making £1 million a year, will I still be underpaid?
Yeah, it depends how you value underpaid, innit?
Yeah.
Like, are you underpaid purely by choice? Probably.
Yeah, but also because the amount of stress that I take on is
Yeah,
like
100%. But then I suppose it is your choice.
yeah.
So
It is my choice.
I get it. I want to ask you, Alex, because I know that, I don't know if I've told you that before, but I know that before getting to know you a few years ago, I know that you've been on YouTube. I know you've interviewed people. You've did podcasts. You've got your own podcast as well. I've seen you mix with a lot of big names, certainly who are big now. Chris Williamson being one of them. And because you've surrounded yourself by all these people building a network, whether it was directly, indirectly, or just happened to be friends at the time, whatever. You've did the modelling, you've been around people. I can only imagine you've been asked to go on Love Island 100 times. But I think
I always just keep begging them. They were just not having it. No, I was actually asked once, to be fair.
I knew you would have been.
Yeah.
And I feel like the question I want to ask is, someone like Chris Williamson, right? What do you think? Take the podcast away. I want to drill into success again, to offer someone, right, what can I be doing? What do you notice in somebody like him? Because you've met him at the early stages. He's been on this podcast. And what have you noticed about him? Like, what has he done that you think other people aren't doing?
Well, I've seen Chris like do his night events. He set up Saurus, which was like a gym clothing company, which I'm sure he probably thought was going to be the thing that was going to make. He probably thought the nightclubs were going to make him a millionaire. Probably think, I don't know his financial situation, but like the mindset to think that's going to make me successful. The gym brand wear stuff's going to make me successful. Love Island's going to make me successful. Modeling's going to make me successful. The belief that all of those things are going to make yourself successful, and it's not never failing. It's the ability to go from failure to failure as if you're succeeding, as if it's going well. It's not never failing. It's going into every new thing with the same enthusiasm that's going to be the thing that makes you successful. I thought the modeling was going to make me successful. I thought the personal training was going to make me successful. I thought the gyms were going to make me successful. I thought the software company was going to make me successful. Every single thing, I had that same belief that was going to be the thing that was going to make me successful, and just not stopping trying. Like, he's never stopped trying. He was accountable. He's held himself accountable. He held himself accountable when one person was listening to the podcast. You know, it's doing what he's doing now, and you know, I'm sure Chris would probably agree in some respects. He might disagree, but from what I know, I think he'd probably agree. It's easy to do your podcast every week, week in, week out, if a million people are listening. Fucking hell. It's easy to go and play well in the stadium filled with 50,000 people. You know, I would try my very, very hardest. If Newcastle subbed me on at half time, I would be up and down that wing till my legs fell off. Do you know what I mean? It would be easy. It's hard to do that when no one's watching. It's hard to do that when no one's paying attention. It's hard to hold yourself accountable as if you're a professional when you're an amateur. So it's that ability to keep trying even when the success looks small, because it's that understanding and that belief that if your podcast goes from 10 viewers this week to 11 viewers next week, that's a 10% increase. One person seems like fuck all. If it went from 1 million followers 1 month to 1.1 million followers, 100,000 people is a lot of people. Yeah. And you would think, fucking hell, you would think that podcast has seen more growth, but actually it's seen the same amount of growth.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you look at it?
But it's like 10 viewers, 15, 20, 25. This is shit. This isn't working.
It's about like,
no, it's growing.
It's like what you said on one of the reels, mate. It's like it's having the ability to. I guess that's what Chris has done. It's having the ability to act professional even when you're an amateur.
Hold yourself accountable. Like, hold yourself to
like,
a
you
higher
don't just
standard.
become professional, like as you said. What did you say?
You don't start acting professionally when you become a professional. Sorry, I'll say that again because I fucked that up. You don't start acting. You don't start acting.
I'm using that.
Yeah, I know, because I thought this could be a clip. No,
you don't start acting.
Yeah, you don't start acting professionally when you become a professional.
You fucked it up again.
No, that was right. You don't start acting professionally when you become a professional. You act professionally when you're an amateur, and then you become a professional. And that's what people think. They think, when I get to this, and they do this all the time, you'll meet people every single day. This is all going in, isn't it?
No cuts, man.
You'll meet people every single day, and it might not be like as cut and dry as saying acting professionally. How many people do you meet who'll be like, oh, I'll start posting these sort of things when I get to 1,000 followers. I'll start doing this when this happens. I'll do this when that happens.
Well, mate, I'll get people who'll do 100 takes of one video, and I'm like, mate, I get it. To you want to have the best take, and I'm the same. Totally get that. But you are far better off putting, because it's gonna be shit anyway. Mm-hmm. It's your first piece of content. It's gonna be absolutely garbage, and that's fine. That's fine. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I bet you when Bezos started, I bet you his first whatever didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like
I bet he sent his first book to the wrong place.
See? Do you know what I mean? Like you can't. You don't even know how good you're going to be. So when you start thinking, I'm gonna be at that place, and it's almost delusion. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's almost
it starts off being delusion.
It is delusion. Like
how many people do you meet who like they're delusional until they make it?
Just to think, I'll think about myself and use myself as an example. To think, I could have went to a shop, bought a camera, and then been able to travel the world and make money is almost backward. Yeah, it's almost like, why would you just waste your money on a camera?
Here's a question, right? Kanye West says some wild things, has an incredible viewpoint of himself. Do you think he would hold those same beliefs of himself, even if he wasn't famous? I think he probably would. Mm-hmm. I think he'd probably think all the same things that he thinks now, even if he wasn't famous. Imagine meeting Kanye West, who's not, multi-platinum, founded one of the greatest clothing companies, social revolution, so many things that he's done, blah, 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 blah. Imagine if you just met him and his music was shit. Imagine how you'd be going. Like, people are also already saying, like, Kanye's, not right in the head. Imagine if you met him and he just didn't have any of the success. You'd be like, fucking hell. But he still would have those beliefs. He still would think. The thing.
But that's why it's like bullshit baffles brains. Like, it's all this, it's I don't know, mate, it's perception, isn't it? It's like, I bet you if you told me your company was worth 25 billion, this conversation would be fucking different. But that's just because you've told us what you're worth. But the questions I would be asking you would be different, which is crazy. But yet you're Alex and you did the same thing to get there. You just happen to be worth this money, not this money.
Yeah, like what, in 5 years' time when what I'm doing now looks minuscule and we do this conversation again, how different will the questions... Obviously, you're not going to ask the same questions because we've already covered those things. But imagine this podcast didn't happen. And you just interviewed me in 5 years' time when what I'm doing now seems minuscule. Would you be asking me the same sort of questions, or would you feel the need to, step outside of that and start like breaking it down further? Because it's almost like when somebody has a certain amount of success, you can ask them certain questions. But then when someone has like that next level of success, you start feeling like, right, well, maybe I need to start like asking different questions because clearly it's something outside of the norm that gets.
Yeah, but it's the same person with the same shit. Like exactly. It's like this. I predominantly film PTs. Okay, if I just came back from filming Dr. Dre on a tour, private jet, me and Dre, and I filmed all his stuff. Filmed 10 reels from actually. I guarantee, and I'm just the same lad with a camera, I'd be asked to go on podcasts left, right, and centre. How great? Yeah. Well, you didn't want us on a podcast when I was filming. Do you get what I'm saying? So I feel like there's always got to be these little carrots, and I feel like social media is a good way to dangle them. It's almost like we don't just... It's like what you say about borrowed credibility. You selling yourself and what you do is phenomenal. However, if you sell a gym who've got 500 gyms across the country, how much sexier do you sound?
Yeah.
And it's easy to get people to buy in there.
Well, now they can see the benefits of being involved with it because, most people will look past that individual. They won't look at ads the content PT. They'll look as if they're looking into you, but there's a prism of light that separates from behind you. And it's not just that, it's what can I get from this interaction based on all of the things that he's doing. So if I get on this bit of content, is he then going to be going and speaking to X, Y, and Z person and he's going to mention me to them? Is there something past this person? And most people do that subconsciously. Yeah. They don't just think about the person who's in front of them. They think about the people that person knows and the connections that they can give. 100%. So when someone's speaking to me now, and we're at the point now where, I had a very different conversation with a friend in Ibiza, after they realized one of the deals that we've got lined up, because even though that person has a business that's bigger than mine, now they've realized that I am a valuable connection to that business. So the conversation changed very quickly into a, like, he was then starting to be interested. He was a nice guy, and I think he'd be interested anyway, but he was a lot more interested in what I was doing, not necessarily just because of what we were doing, but because of the company that we're associated with. So it was like that, boom, boom. He made that connection straight away, which is fine.
I've got guys who own big gym chains coming on here, and I know that you're on here, so I know that there's going to be a connection joined there. Or you've got a guy who places PT. Well, we've just... Do you get what I'm saying? So even that in itself, there's always going to be value. Oh, I'll come on your podcast, mate. Who else is on? It's never a case I'll come on your podcast, lads, for you. Oh, who else you got on? Oh, you got him on. Oh, I like him. Boom, I'll come on then. So there's always going to be a dot joined. Final question, Alex. What do people not know about the fitness industry that's bad?
That's bad. I don't know if this is necessarily bad. One thing that I would like to address, that's something that I try and like kind of stamp out of people. So within the fitness industry, one thing, money is a dirty word, and it has been for a long time. It's slightly changing now, but especially within people's like interactions with clients, money is always like quite a dirty word, which is strange because in no other industry that's the case. You pay for a service, you get a service, you pay for money. You pay with money, you get that service. The fitness industry, money's been kind of demonized because it's a job that you should enjoy and that you should like doing and you should like helping people. One limiting thing, and this is the reason that I believe that online coaches don't have this same sort of issue, is that when people start getting a little bit more successful, they've been in the fitness industry, they start making more money, clients turn on them. Because it's all right supporting your personal trainer, but it's not all right your personal trainer making more money than you. And people will start doing that. Like, you get a new car. It's one of the worst things a PT can do. You go and get a flash car. Clients start coming in. They know they pay you £300 a month. I paid for those rims.
I've got clients, mate.
Service.
Mate, I've got clients who've lost like 25,000 followers because they've bought a new car.
Jealousy. That's probably the thing that like, and it happens on a, you know, the followers, the wide scale thing. Like, they're not connections. They're people who are like watching you.
But you don't start hating on your doctor because he's just bought a new fucking Rangy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But
you would with your PT.
In other industries, you just don't know. It's because you don't make that visceral connection. You're not like, because you don't pay your doctor, like say your dentist, you don't necessarily make that like kind of, because you don't understand. With personal training, you're just paying for time. There's pretty much no other expenses. So if I give someone £300, I know that they get all that £300. If I go and get an Invisalign, I don't fucking know how much the Invisalign costs. I don't know how much all that. I go in there and there's loads of equipment. I go, I don't know how much any of that costs. I assume that the dentist hardly gets any of it, even though they must do pretty well. But it's like, it's that idea then that, everyone wants to see you do well. No one wants to see you do better than them. So it's almost like you've got to act broke sort of thing. With online coaches, it's like, it's maybe a little bit different because you're paying them less. You're paying them £120 a month. So it's like when they post a picture of their Audi R8, you don't, you know that you haven't paid for that. You haven't even put a full tank in. So it's like, maybe that's one of the things. Maybe it's because you don't see them in real life. Maybe it's because they aren't in the same environment with you. I'll give you a really good example. People find it so easy to support people on the other side of the world that they'll never meet. The reason they find it easy to support someone on the other side of the world that they'll never meet is because it's impossible for them to compare lives.
Yeah.
If we went to the same school, lived in the same street, and you're videoing KSI, you're off around the world, you're doing everything like that, I know that the only differentiator, the only reason that you got those opportunities and not me is something that you did, that I didn't. If I'm supporting Drake, who's a singer in Canada, he lives in Canada, I don't live in Canada, he has access to this, he has a different culture, blah, blah, blah. It's easy for me to make a disconnect between me and Drake. It's easy for me to say I would have never done those things because I never had those opportunities. If Ads lives on the same street as me and does better than me, the only person I can look at is myself, and people fucking hate looking at themselves.
That's meant that way.
So it's that idea that it's easier to support someone far away. If I'm PTing
it's almost
you,
like it's not your problem, isn't it? Like,
it's like there's a disconnect.
Have you seen that? Have you seen, the analogy? Me and Mike were talking about this in the car the other day, coming back from a podcast, and if there was like a drowning kid in a pond as you walk past, you jump in and save him. But if that drowning kid was like on the other side of the pond, you might run round. But if he was an hour away, you might ring someone and be like, "Fox, is someone drowning? Like, he's just in that location. I can't get there." But if he was in another country, you'd be like, "Hi, sound. What do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
It's almost like
If they were in another
it's
country,
nothing to do with me. So
if they were in another country, they'd probably make it into a meme.
yeah, and Jesus, that's how bad it.
Do you know what I mean?
That's
Not that made the
so
world's
that
focus.
goes the other way with success
Yeah.
as well. I'm not bothered. I'm not jealous of him. He's
Yeah.
Eminem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you're right, if Eminem lived next door,
It would be less palatable.
yeah.
So
it's
if you're
interesting
PT that you're like live around the corner from, and now you're seeing them become more successful. And Alex Hormozy, I listened to him talk about it. He was saying that at first he lived in the gym, he slept on the floor, blah blah blah. And people were like, "I want to support you, I want to help you. Like, you're a good guy, you're a good PT." And then he like set up a couple of gyms, and he used to go from gym to gym to gym, like making sure everything's right. People are going, "Oh, boss man's here. Boss man's
Yeah.
graced ourselves with his presence." And it's like, wait a minute, this is what you told me you were supporting me to do. You said that you are supporting me to get into this position, and it's like, it's almost that point where then you have to be very careful about the people that you're getting around, because everybody wants to see you do well. Nobody wants to see you do better than them unless they can benefit from it in some way. So then it becomes like everything becomes a lot more transactional. I think that's a big part of the fitness industry. I think, you know, I feel like, you know, it's quite a superficial industry. You know, not everybody that you see who you think, wow, they're in great shape, you wouldn't change your routine for theirs. Like, there's obviously a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. For me, it's not a secret. Like, you know, if you don't think that half of these people that you see are on steroids, then that's down to you and your education. I'm not going to make any comments on that. If someone's like, "Oh yeah, I think they're natural," then I just go, "Hey, me too, buddy." Like, if you think Mike O'Hearn's natural, then that's on you. And, you know, good luck to you. Keep training and maybe you'll look like that one day. You know, so those sort of things, that doesn't bother me, because it's like we all take risks. Like, you know, the PTs and the fitness influencers and the fitness models who are taking steroids, yeah, they probably don't they probably don't smoke 20 a day. Yeah. They probably don't go and drink pints 4 times a week. They have their vice, which, you know, helps them make money. I'm not against that. I'd say, yeah, the main thing is like the money thing, and like how you're not really supposed to do well if you're a PT. If you're a PT, you're not supposed to really do well, because it's not about the money.
Alex Parr,
yes,
fitness entrepreneur.
you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, mate.
Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Cheers, bro.
Yep.
Thank you, mate. So you've made it to the end of this one. You're brave. But if you like this episode and you want to see more like this, click here and watch it.